going to be a spoiler-free review of Justina Ireland's A Test of Courage. This is her middle grade entry to the High Republic series that is launching on Tuesday, actually, January 5th. We're just about there.
Hmm.
So this is actually my first introduction into the High Republic. Now I am going to give y'all some general plot points, but I don't consider any of these really spoilers. Um, More of what's kind of happening at a high level. I'm gonna leave out any of the big reveals or major details, that type of stuff. So if you haven't read uh, Test of Courage, by the time you listen to this, you'll be fine to go ahead and listen to our review here. But Test of Courage is mainly about Jedi Vernestra Rowe, who is a Miri Allen. And if you're familiar with Luminara and Dooley or Bear Sophie from Clone Wars or uh, uh, episodes 2 or 3 of the films, you would know what a Miri Allen would look like. Vernestra is a Jedi Knight prodigy. She actually passed her trials at the age of 15, which is very young. So she's become a Jedi Knight very early. She's on her first mission here in this book. She kind of feels like she's babysitting, not doing very much important because she's watching over a senator's daughter, Avon Staros, who is a very fiery, independent person. She's also good at tinkering with things. Kind of has designs on being an inventor, and messes around with her droid programming and things of that nature. So they're on board a luxury cruiser that's destined for the dedication of Starlight Beacon. Starlight Beacon is about to open. There's huge hope for what Starlight Beacon represents at this point in the story. It's kind of like the jewel of the Republic. It's something that's going to allow the Jedi to continue their mission of peace in the galaxy. So there's a lot of optimism around Starlight Beacon. Um, Also present on that cruiser are Jedi Master Douglas Sunvale and his Padawan Emery, and a delegation from the planet Dalna that includes Ambassador Weft and his son Honesty Weft. Um, what's happening here is that the Republic's really kind of wooing Dalna to join the Republic, and so you have the Ambassador joining. They're heading to Starlight Beacon for that, but they're also, the Republic's also trying to get Dalna to join as well. But along the way, things go awry, and the 4 young characters, which would be Vernestra, Avon, Emery, and Honesty, end up stranded on a little-known moon that's inhabited only by very primitive wildlife. There's also like toxic rains that happen every day there. So they come to find out while they're on this planet that their predicament, being trapped there, is not an accident, and they're set to the task of trying to avoid toxic rain every day, escape the moon, and then also find out what or who was the real cause of their little
Sounds
accident.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm interested.
yeah, no,
I
it's a
haven't read this yet, by the way. I have
yeah,
not.
right, and that's one of
Um,
the reasons why I wanted to keep it spoiler free too, because I
mhm.
know that you're kind of working on the Claudia Gray novel,
Yeah,
but
I dove into the dark just
right,
because
right,
Claudia Gray is my jam. So
yeah,
that's where I went first.
nice. Well, that's where I'm heading next, actually.
Hmm.
But I actually enjoyed this a good bit. Light of the Jedi, we've heard so much talk about it. That's really the beginning of this story. The main stuff happens there in Light of the Jedi. Uh, I didn't really have any trouble jumping into A Test of Courage right off the bat. I will say that there are some references to what happens in Light of the Jedi. Uh, it mentions the disaster. It mentions a few characters that are kind of central to that story. I think uh, it didn't lose me, but be aware that if you start here, there are those references. So if that bugs you, you might want to start with Light of the Jedi and then come back to this.
Yeah, Adam, that's one thing that I was kind of wondering about is there a certain order that we have to read these in? Because, as I dove into the dark, but it seems like these stories are all happening along a similar timeline
Mm-hmm.
because Into the Dark is really
Yeah.
about this Jedi Padawan that's going to be going to the Starlight Beacon, and this disaster happens while they're on the way.
Right.
And so it seems like you could pick any of these up
Pretty
and
much, yeah.
read them and still be okay. But I wasn't sure if there was a certain order. I mean, I think Light of the Jedi would
Yeah,
be a
no,
good
I
place to
wouldn't say
start, but
right.
um, you know,
Yeah, of
yeah.
these three, in Into the Dark comes out actually in February, I think.
Hmm.
But of these three that are kind of coming out right about now, I think you could really jump into any of those three first. However, Light of the Jedi kind of highlights what is happening at large in the galaxy, and like you
Hmm.
mentioned with Into the Dark, and then definitely with A Test of Courage, those events are referenced. You know, so if you
Yeah.
kind of already have an idea of what's happening, what that big disaster is in Light of the Jedi, I think you'll be fine. Uh, but I think if you really want to go in order, probably Light of the Jedi would be first. But like you
Hmm.
said, these are all kind of happening along this at the same time frame. So,
Right. Okay.
like I said, it's a fun story on its own. I really like the characters. I really enjoyed Vernestra. I thought she's a great character. Her relationship with
Hmm.
Avon is done very well. The emotional impetus for the actions of let's say Emery and Honesty, I thought were very well done. Um, and again, without getting into spoilers, those characters make some decisions, and I think that what happens earlier in the novel is really done well for a middle grade book to to expand on their feelings, what they're going through, and then ultimately the choices that they make. So I was pretty happy with that. Um,
Hmm.
and like I said a couple times, remember this is a middle grade novel. This is actually kind of below what you would expect from a young adult novel. As far as difficulty and stuff like that. Um, but I think that there's still definitely parts of this novel that would attract the interest of Star Wars fans of any age. So, um, you know, as long as you keep in mind that you're reading a book that's really not intended for you, I think you're going to be okay.
Hmm.
Now there are a few things that I didn't enjoy so much. Some of the names I felt were a little not Star Wars. They're kind of everyday names. Specifically Honesty and Jedi Master Douglas. Douglas is just
Jedi Master Douglas.
yeah,
That's just
Jedi Master,
hilarious.
good old Jedi Master Doug.
Jedi Doug.
but
That's great.
yeah, those two in particular, I was like, it's not my favorite, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's
J6 is kind
understandable.
of the main droid in the story. Pretty fun droid. I think it's maybe a little too familiar because kind of the level of sarcasm or sass is really reminiscent of K2SO or L3. Uh,
Hmm.
so I got those vibes out of it. However, like I said, fun droid. I think for the readers this is intended for. I think it'd be just fine. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then going back to what I said before, remembering that this is a middle grade novel, I did feel the plot was a little thin. I felt like it could have been just a little bit longer. This comes in just
Hmm.
over 200 pages, which I think for a middle grade novel is probably pretty good. However,
Yeah.
I think a little bit more would have been okay. I thought it wrapped up just a little too quickly at the end. The plot felt a little bit thin at times. Um, like I said, I was trying to compare this to Lost Stars. I think as when I went in, without
Hmm.
really remembering that this is kind of like, even an even younger audience.
Yeah, like middle versus young adult.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
yeah. This
kind of
is
that
really like,
difference.
yeah, this is like really middle. Like older elementary,
Middle
really
school
middle
age.
school age.
Hmm.
Young adult would probably be more like high school.
Yeah.
Teenage thing. This is really younger than that. So, uh,
Hmm.
but honestly, I did enjoy it. Even with those gripes, I'd probably put it like a 7.5 out of 10, somewhere in there. I think it's a great
Hmm.
introduction to the High Republic for a young audience. It's probably not going to start with Light of the Jedi. Um, I think this would be a perfectly fine place to jump in. So I enjoyed my time with it. Um, I went ahead and, yeah, like I said, we got the advanced review copy, but I went ahead and picked up a copy for my shelf just to have it. Just, like I said before, I want to get into all these stories, and
Hmm.
I thought that was a good way to do it. So I enjoyed it. I think I think people listening to this podcast would enjoy it. Um, it's coming out. We mentioned the release date. It's coming out Tuesday, January 5th. It will be on. There's a hardcover edition. It'll also have an ebook and an audiobook version as well. So,
Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you for diving into this Justina Ireland story,
yeah, I
and
had fun.
I'm definitely looking forward to reading it after I finish Into the Dark, um,
Yeah,
and or Light of the Jedi.
yeah,
So
I
yeah.
know. We're running into it because Light of the Jedi is going to arrive on Tuesday. so
It's
so
coming quick.
yeah, but yeah, it was a lot of
Well,
fun.
are
I enjoyed it. I think, like I said before, listeners here will enjoy it. Uh, it, it
mhm.
the hardcover is like $12. It's not expensive, And I think it's worth that. So,
Oh yeah.
definitely for me, I've been wanting to jump into every aspect of High Republic. So it didn't disappoint me. I had a lot of fun with it. Um, there's fun little references peppered in. Some of them I think are just kind of mentioning names just so you can go, oh hey, I know what that what that is. Um,
Hmm.
but some of them are very fun, and there's actually some pretty interesting historical historical aspects, going even back farther than the High Republic.
Okay.
There's some pretty cool
Okay.
mentions in it. So, but without spoiling those
Spoiling anything? Yeah.
fun things,
We'll
um,
leave it at that. Yeah.
yeah, there's some fun mentions going back farther in history. So,
Good to know.
yeah,
Um, Yeah, the one thing I really like about the High Republic is it's like a clean slate. We can all
yeah,
just kind of dive
that's
into it from the beginning,
yep,
and
that's what they said.
um,
This is a jumping in point, and that's why I think that I don't think that there's a particular order for these or anything like that yet. I mean, obviously there
mhm,
will be as we go forward. But
yeah,
as far as like these books coming out now, I don't think there's a particular order. This is just jump in.
yep. Alrighty, sir. Well, are you ready to jump into the mythology of Star Wars Part 2?